whatever, 36, of course. So the students are gonna go through that with you, explain to you what's going on. The slideshow is loaded. Channel 5, KPIX CBS has a television crew. They're parking. They'll be here momentarily. So they're gonna record some of this. I don't know that the story runs tonight, but the story will run about ballot measures and recalls and what's going on in the process of direct democracy, maybe in the next few days, but you'll see them setting up. Katie Nielsen, the reporter, might talk to you for when it runs on CBS. If you want to do that, if you don't, that's cool. To give you some idea. To start, we need to give you kind of an overview about the ballot measure process nationwide and what's going on. Most people don't realize that ballot measures in California, for example, are the second most expensive elections in the United States. Only the US presidential election is more money. More money is spent on ballot measures than what we see happening in US Senate elections, US House elections. It's a really big deal. And voters like to be asked their opinion and then they like to vote no. So it's hard to get them passed. And obviously what's going on with the measures in Sonoma County, we're gonna highlight measures I and J for you. I is about kids, J is about agriculture, and then we'll go through the ballot measures themselves with everyone here. So that's what we're gonna do. Each student has about 3 or 4 minutes to cover everything. That's all they have. And they're doing a great job. It's a great group. So if you give them a round of applause. Covered with a lot of students, and this group is just awesome. Right. Again, thank you all very much. Coming. Second. All right, Victoria, you're up. Hey.
Hi, it's great to see all of you. I'm Victoria Vaihaza, and I'm going to be doing, as he mentioned, an overview of direct democracy in the United States. Now, for some background here, in California in 2022, we had 7 ballot measures. 3 of those passed, 4 of them failed. In 2020, we had 12 ballot measures. 5 failed, 5 passed, 7 failed. Now, that means we passed about 42% of all ballot measures presented to us, which means we're actually kind of selective because we get a lot of ballot measures presented to us. There's going to be 162 statewide ballots in this election. 153 of those are in the upcoming November ballot. 44 of all of these are going to be directly related to the election process in some way or manner. 31 are fiscal, 11 are related to the abortion rights and everything that's going on about them, and 10 of all of them are in California. There's also going to be 2 locally I&J that we're going to be talking about. Now, there's 41 states with ballot measures, and there's 2 territories with them as well. 9 of them don't have anything. And as you can notice, a lot of them are east of the Mississippi. What's interesting there is all of the states with the most are in the West. There's 3 states with 10 or more, including California, and all of them are in the West. Colorado has 14 because they like doing too much. Now, looking on a national view, what are some ones that you should be paying attention to outside of California? The first one, and actually, hold on, let me give a quick disclaimer. The colors here are for how they vote in a presidential election. Purple is a toss-up, red is Republican, blue is Democrat. Puerto Rico is marked as blue because if they're a state, they're likely to be a toss-up. And going on that, they actually have a binding statehood referendum this year, which will decide the ultimate fate of Puerto Rico. Remaining as a territory is no longer an option, which means we may see a 51st state in our lifetime relatively soon. Now, Arizona, Utah, and North Dakota have on their ballot measures to reduce the effectiveness of ballot measures. Utah actually has one that would allow the state legislature to simply ignore whatever the people vote for if it passes. The state legislature could just decide we don't want to listen to this ballot measure. Wow. Now, Arizona, Colorado, Florida, Maryland, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, and South Dakota all have ballot measures related to guaranteeing abortion rights. I chose these out of the 11 because they're all in key states that have generally leaned somewhat close this time in just California. That's 8,700 contributions, $30,000 per contribution on average. It's pretty rich to get into this game. Now, 175 million of that is going to be spent in favor of ballot measures, and 145 is against them. But what's a key thing to note here is a lot of the money is concentrated in the negative side. $100 million is in one proposition on the against side. They choose who to fight. In general, Proposition 33 is by far and away the most funded, and nationally, as he mentioned, we're really expensive. California, you have to buy us, and you have to buy us well. We have 52% of all money spent on ballot measures. 660 million, we have 52% of that. We like our money and we like spending it. Twitter isn't working, but that's about it for me.
Good morning, hello. My name is Amanda Chester and this is my partner.
Xavier Swanson.
And we're gonna be covering two really important measures that are local here to Sonoma County. We'll start with Measure I. Measure I is the Sonoma County Child Care and Children's Health Initiative. This aims to generate 30 million annually with a 1/4-cent sales tax. This would expand affordable healthcare and childhood services. It would increase access to childhood care and early childhood education for children to be kindergarten ready. It would also increase wages for childcare providers, as well as it would prioritize children impacted by trauma and homelessness. Why is this important? Sonoma County has lost nearly 40% of its child care providers due to the pandemic as well as the wildfires. There are about 1,500 children waiting for subsidized childcare in Sonoma County. The supporters of this measure, total contributions is 1.1 million, with the largest contributors being the Heising Simons Action Fund, Our Kids, Our Future, and the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria, as well as some individual donors, Anthony Crabb and William Gallagher. Out of this 1.1 million, about 776,000 have been spent in expenditures, with most of this money going towards political consultants, PCI Consulting, Breakaway Political. And while there are no opponents for this measure, there is a situation. Measure U in Sebastopol is seeking to add a 1.5% sales tax to the city of Sebastopol to generate city services such as medical, emergency, police, fire, street maintenance. And if Measure U were to pass, it would generate 1.5 million annually. But this would increase the sales tax to 10.5%, which would exceed the 10.25% sales tax cap for the state of California. So if both measures are to pass, it will go to the Attorney General's office, who would have to intervene and make a decision. Perhaps creating Measure U would only generate 1/4% sales tax. So will that be enough for the city of Sebastopol? Wait and see. And if you want to know anything else, check out these links and I will pass it on to my partner.
Thank you. I'm Xavier Swanson. I'll be talking about Measure J, which is a prohibition on concentrated animal feeding operations in Sonoma County. So it's a ban on CAFOs. That's just concentrated animal feeding operations. And it would phase out CAFOs over the next 3 years with financial penalties for those in violation. So we'd be looking at 1,000 for the first day in violation, 5,000 for the second, 10,000 for any subsequent days. The measure requires that the agricultural commissioner is in charge of employment, like retraining for those unemployed due to the measure. This has been estimated to cost the county $1.5 million. For a CAFO, just a table, this is an EPA definition, so 700 mature dairy cows, 1,000 beef cattle, 125,000 chickens if they're using a non-liquid manure handling system. Who supports Jay? We have animal rights organization Corona Foundation, which is based in Colorado. Jane Eagle is actually a local in Grayton, formerly on the Water Board of Grayton. Direct Action Everywhere is a animal rights group based in Berkeley. And they're actually notorious for breaking into like farms and trying to rescue animals. All of these logos are linked. So the Western United Dairies is a group of farming credit interests and large ranchers all over California. And they're pooling their money against Jay. Weber Family Farms is a local group, a local farm owned by brothers. Their website, I cannot find it. I think they took it down after the controversy a few years ago. The Glover Sonoma Co-Bank is actually based in Colorado. Total contributions are 2,014,000, almost 15,000. And it's about a 7-to-1 ratio in bias to the no side. So the no side is basically crushing them financially. The big picture is that this is a proof of concept measure. See how close they can get with only $250,000. If they can get it 40+% on the vote, it'll likely appear again. But the main goal is the large farms in the Central Valley, because the average size of a dairy herd in California is around 2,300 cattle. The largest in Sonoma County is only 1,200. Thanks.
All right, Darrell.
Recording in progress.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Simmons. I'm presenting Proposition 2, the Public Education Facilities Bond. California ballot measure 2, or the Public Education Facilities Bond, is a bond issuance of $10 billion for K-12 and community colleges. 8.5 is supposed to go towards K-12 for constructing, modernizing, and replacing lead pipes in K-12 schools, while 1.5 is supposed to go towards community colleges and the modernization of those and earthquake proofing. Current changes to the bond that is installed currently is that the state is supposed to pay about 65% of all the construction costs that is endured by each of the plans that the school districts may create. And also, according to the Legislative Analyst Office, it will take 35 years to pay back out of taxpayer money. For K-12, they must submit a plan if approved by the school board, and they have to send their inventory of existing school funds and facilities and growth capacity, depending on what they would like. These are the Yes on 2 committees. One of them is sponsored by local businesses and construction firms and any other business that will profit from this measure being passed. One of them is by teachers. And another committee is for community colleges specifically. And then the last one, as you see, that is the latest one, as highlighted in dark green, is by Next Gen California that also supports Proposition 4 as well. These are organizations that support Proposition 2, mainly teachers and boards of education and different districts as well. Now, the issues with Prop 2 is actually concerning funding and the amount that each district can gain based off matching the price that the state will pay. And this poses an issue for inequality for districts that cannot raise as much as others. Also, it doesn't fully address on how each district will also handle the budget as is as well. This is the media coverage on No on 2. I have not seen too many on Yes on 2, but a lot of the media coverage is covered on No, and it's mainly due to taxpayer issues and also inequality issues within. These are the expenditures on both sides. As you can see, Reform California, which is against Proposition 2, makes up majority of it, mainly because they're only funded by one organization and one person. So I've given you the summary, and I did put a video that will give you more information, but as you can see, you cannot see it. But I also will suggest to look at you guys' voter guides that you guys get in the mail for more information as well.
All right, I'm Rudy Oliva, and I am doing Proposition 3, which is the fight to end the language of Proposition 8. Prop 3 seeks to solidify the right to same-sex marriage, and it would completely repeal any language from the infamous Proposition 8, which was a prop in 2008, which essentially banned same-sex marriage and stating marriage was between one man and one woman. Some proponents of Proposition 3 are Planned Parenthood and their affiliates, the Democratic Party of California, Governor Gavin Newsom, and the League of Women Voters.
Was it here?
The top contributors financially would be the Federated Indians of Great Nigeria with $1 million, Kevin De Leon for 600 grand, Senator Tony Atkins for 300 grand, the California Teachers Association for 200 grand, and the California Federation of Teachers for 150 grand. In opposition to Prop 3, the two main groups are the California Family Council and American Council of Evangelicals, since there are no financial since no one is contributing to the opposition side, obviously can't list any here, but totally $3.07 million brings obviously all to the pro side. And since this bill is almost guaranteed to pass with 68% of, roughly 68% of voters voting for this bill, obviously there hasn't really been any media coverage of this. And for more information, go to these sources, and thank you very much.
All right, Hello, everyone. My name is Miles Dillingham. Today I will be presenting on Proposition 4 and the relationship it exposes between nonprofit organizations and the ballot measure process. So real quick, I'll just touch on what Proposition 4 is. If you want to learn more about it, I would recommend checking out the League of Women Voters video they put together on it. It's very informative. Basically, what it does is it would authorize the sale of a $10 billion climate bond. This money will be accessed through grants and loans, and it will be available to Native American tribes, local governments, businesses, and nonprofits. 40% of the funds have been earmarked for low-income communities and those most at risk for climate change. And also, it's important to remember that there are no caps written into the legislature about how much any one organization can receive in grants or loans. And also, the money can be used to pay for overhead costs, like salaries. So real quick, we'll talk about why it's on the ballot. Back in July, the California Climate Commitment received $9.4 billion in budget cuts because we didn't have the money in our pocket. So Proposition 4 would authorize $10 billion to be put back into that program, but we're paying through debt instead. And also, according to PPIC, about 78% of Californians think addressing the climate issue is important. So there's broad support for it. Let's take a look at the supporting versus the opposition, but it's mostly supporting. There is opposition. It's Carl DeMaio with Reform California. He's running for assemblyman in San Diego. He spent about $15,000 opposing this proposition, but that's not really going to do much against, you can't see it here, but that's about $9 million worth of supporting contributions. His money is really just expensive virtue signaling. But this is where we start to see some important things in the supporting side. All the top 3 contributors are nonprofit organizations. 2 of them have land operations as well. We'll talk about that later. But then also, if we look at the 47%, almost all of that is also nonprofit organizations. So nonprofits are the ones primarily funding this proposition because for them, it's like an investment. We'll take a look at the expenditures real quick. The people the money is going to, it's pretty boring. It's just progressive political consulting firms. But what is interesting is how much money has been spent. Almost $800,000 out of 9 million. That's really not a lot. And this is why. The committees involved with Proposition 4 are slush funds. 2 of them were involved in Proposition 68. They didn't spend all the money they had then, so they're moving it over to here. And if we recall earlier, climate initiatives have a lot of support amongst Californians. So this allows the committees to kind of take a step back, take their foot off the gas, and let the proposition and the issue do the work for them. So this is the dynamic that's at play. Nonprofits give money to committees, and these committees are like investment managers. They take that money and they try and spread it as far as possible amongst different ballot initiatives. Because what they do in Proposition 4, we can see it, they give $9 million and they gain access to $10 billion. There's no reason to spend all $9 million now if you only have to spend, what, $800,000? That would just be wasting your money. So we'll take a look again at why, according to PPIC in early September, 65% of likely voters said they would be voting yes on Proposition 4. So it's in the back. I want to show you guys some interesting data about how this affects the nonprofit organizations. We'll start with the 2 bottom ones and then we'll finish with the top one. On the right side, we can see on the very bottom, real estate funds. One thing that these land groups do is they get money from the government. They get money from the government and they spend that money buying private land. They then conserve that private land and they sell it back to the government. So they're getting money from the government to do their job, which is what we are voting for if we vote yes on Proposition 4. But then they're also getting money for doing that job. And then down here in the bottom right corner, we can see, oh, by the way, all of this is the Nature Conservancy, the #1 contributor to this proposition. We can see just 5 of their 15 paid employees. They all make 6 figures, and the top 2 are making $800,000. That's an expensive paycheck, and I'm sure they do a lot of difficult work, but you should be aware that this is how the money is being spent. And if we look at the top right, I highlighted 2018 and 2019. Back in 2018, Proposition 68, which authorized a $4.1 billion climate bond, was passed. That is a $200 million jump in revenue in 1 year. So either that's a lot of gifts and contributions, or that's a lot of grant money coming in from the proposition. So using this, we can see what Proposition 4 does for these nonprofits. It is a form of investing for them. They give a little bit of money and they get money out of it, a lot. And it's how they do their work. I mean, this is what the grant process is about. It's externalizing the work that the government doesn't want to do. But they are businesses at the end of the day. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you all for listening, and please welcome my next classmate.
Yeah.
Hi, hello, my name is Kylie Pringle, and I will be talking about Proposition 5. Proposition 5 hopes to lower our current supermajority threshold for approving affordable housing and public infrastructure bonds. So the top 3 points you should know about Prop 5 is that, as I said, it looks to lower the current voting threshold from the supermajority of 66% to a more attainable 55%. The second is that there were negotiations behind the scenes with the California Association of Realtors to make sure they don't oppose this prop. Is they added a exemption to single family homes. So anything like duplexes, triplexes, except for like very minor cases. So now for the housing bond portion, it only applies to apartments, more smaller affordable units. And that single family homes, either way, most realtors make their money. And 3, as I said, it only applies to affordable units. For support for Prop 5, it totaled to about 5.7 million, and some main supporters were the California Democratic Party and financial backers like the Chan Zuckerberg Advocacy Initiative, Central Coast Alliance, Eco California Action, and Californians for Safe Affordable Communities. As for opposition, this is where all the main money went, with a total of 28.5 million. A majority of that was by the California Association of Realtors, but because they had their the same talks, they have since backed out, and all this money was spent beforehand. So all the main money has been coming from the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association with $1.4 million. And there was a third opponent, the California Homeowners, Businesses and Taxpayers, but they only did $33,000 and stopped all operations. For the main expenditures from Howard Jarvis is about 77% of all their expenditures is purely on marketing. They've done a little on legal and accounting with about 20% of their money, but it has all been purely on marketing. Just a quick background on them, as you will be seeing a lot on a lot of these propositions, is for my proposition specifically with Prop 5 is they were the original creators of our current supermajority vote. They were part of the taxpayer revolt from 1978 and created the supermajority vote with Proposition 13. They have a large history of opposing anything tax-related, lowering voting thresholds, wages, all that good stuff. So again, you'll be seeing them a lot. For any current fiscal impacts for that would come about in Prop 5, the only actual impact would come about with what we actually vote for. And for anyways, so the main issue is that with like, oh, to get all the money back with the bonds is through property taxes. But there's other ways, like other taxes we can do, like it doesn't really impact anyone's taxes. And an example of a lower threshold would be from the 2000s, which we passed a lower voting threshold for school bonds. And since then, many don't end up actually passing. Only about 2/3 of them pass, with a very low of 40% that happened in March of 2020. And if you would like to learn more about Prop 5, please visit my references. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kula, and I will be discussing Proposition 6 with you. On the face of it, Proposition 6 has to do with the removal of language from the California Constitution regarding the involuntary servitude of incarcerated persons. However, when you look in depth into it, it's more about equal pay and ending slavery in California. This language in the Constitution is the last fragment of slavery in California. Right now, incarcerated persons are working for less than $1 an hour. California is not the first state to go in to pass this or to get this law. Colorado and these are other states. Nevada also has a similar ballot measure this year. Now, passing on this proposition would mean two things. One, that there would be no forced labor upon incarcerated persons as a form of discipline. And two, that prisons would have to have a minimum wage for incarcerated persons. It is unsure as of right now what the fiscal effects would be. It would depend on how the state and the local governments deal with this. However, the effect would not likely succeed the tens of millions of dollars. Now, these are the supporters of Proposition 6. The official supporter is Assemblywoman Laurie Wilson. She is the assembly person that drafted and tabled this legislature on to the state legislature. These are just the top 5 contributors. They have given about more than $700,000, but the total contribution altogether to Prop 6 is 1.2 million. The top 5 contributors themselves make up 60% of all the contributions. Now, these are all nonprofit organizations, and we have some philanthropists in the mix. These are the expenditures on Yes to Prop 6. It's mostly for campaign consultancies, polling and survey research, and professional services. As you can see, it's only about $300,000 out of 1.2 million. There are 4 committees in support of Proposition 6, and only 1 is making expenditures. The other 3 are taking money and then giving it to that 1 committee. So money is being moved around within the committees. And I think Miles did a good job about explaining what these committees could be doing with the funds. Now, that's important to point out that only $300,000 has been spent is because according to the PPIC poll, the chances of this proposition being passed is 46% compared to the 50% of people who would vote no on the proposition. Now, there is no official opposition to Proposition 6. However, Howard Jonas taxpayers, as we've heard about them, they have put out a statement that they do not support Proposition 6. And also, because there's no official opposition, there is also no money going to vote no for Proposition 6. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jason. And we're doing Proposition 32, which is raising the minimum wage in California. So a little overview about Proposition 32 is they want to raise it from $16, what it's currently at, to $18. However, if they have less than 26 employees, they have to change it to $17 starting January 1st, 2025. But once 2026 rolls around, they would want everyone in the state to be paying a minimum wage of $18. But however, if this does pass, that's what will happen. But in 2027, we're thinking about getting rid of this and just basing it off inflation. Because we know, like, if you live in LA County, it's going to be more than if you live like some small county like in Central California. So that's what would happen if this does pass. And as you can see here on the chart, it's our contributions and campaign finance. As you can see, a lot of it is on the supporting side. It's over $11 million right now on the supporting side, and the opposing side is only around like 450K. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to pass. It's still like pretty close in the polling, as we'll see later in the slideshow. But that's pretty much a toss. Now this will pass. But the most unique thing about the contributions to the proposition is that the vast majority of it comes from Joseph Sandberg, who is a California businessman, has been a longtime proponent of anti-poverty legislation. In 2015, he led the campaign to get an earned income tax credit program established in California. Give a tax rate to people who were part of a full-time job. And obviously, most of the beneficiaries of that are people from middle to low income families. He also got an assist from Kevin DeLeon as part of his campaign committee for lieutenant governor. And the opposition has tried to spin this a little bit as an example of, elite interfering in independent businesses. And speaking of the opposition, for most of the campaign, it was very scattershot. You had, 5,000 here, 10,000 there from people like the Retailers Association or the Restaurant Association. However, since the beginning of October, there's been a much more concentrated effort to raise money for the opposition. All of it coming from agricultural affiliated action committees, and they've nearly quadrupled the amount raised in opposition in 2 weeks alone. And now, despite the fact that the proponents are vastly outspending the opposition, they haven't been able to move the needle of public opinion much. And this latest batch of polls from Berkeley, Democrats and Republicans are voting about how you would expect them to. There has been a large jump in respondents who said they are undecided. And so they've turned what was initially a very slim majority into a plurality at best. If you'd like to dive any deeper into this proposition, get more information, you're encouraged to visit these following sources. Thank you very much.
My name is Abigail Laird, and this is my partner.
Hi, I'm Katarina Roll.
And we will be doing California Proposition 33, which expands local government's authority to enact rent control on residential property. So Proposition 33 would repeal the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act of 1995, which limits the city's ability to control rent and also protects the rights of landlords. So what would a vote yes on Proposition 33 mean? A yes vote would then repeal the Costa-Hawkins Housing Act of 1995, and it would allow cities and counties to decide what rent control they can put on landlords. And a vote no. A no vote on Proposition 33 would mean that the state would continue to limit the kinds of rent control cities and counties could have, and they would continue the prohibitions on rent control on single-family homes and apartments built after 1995.
So why is Proposition 33 on the ballot? Well, California's rent is about 33% of higher than the national average. And as of 2020, it has increased by 35%. And because of the need for affordable housing in California, there is a need for affordable housing in California, and it's extremely important right now. And per data from the California Association of Realtors, only about 15% of Californians can afford to buy a home. And while Proposition 33 has been brought down on other ballots before in the past, we do believe that there is a possibility that it will pass because Californians are realizing just how expensive it is to live here.
So what is stopping this proposition from being passed? One of the major arguments against Proposition 33 is that if passed, it would make the housing shortage and housing crisis even worse. Another argument against Proposition 33 is this measure has been on the ballots before and it wasn't passed, like in 2020. And so one of the arguments is, why should it be passed now?
So who is for Proposition 33? Well, we have the Renters and Homeowners for Rent Control, yes on 33, sponsored by the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. You may be wondering, what's the AIDS Healthcare Foundation? Well, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and they specialize in providing affordable healthcare and affordable housing for HIV positive and AIDS patients. And they mostly have a focus in Los Angeles County, but they are wanting to expand into all of California. And they've contributed around $37 million to Proposition 33. And we also have Kevin DeLeon, again, believing in a better California ballot measure committee, yes on props 3, 32, and 33. And he has contributed around $582,000 to this prop. And as you can see, Kevin DeLeon only contributes only 1.5% of the total contributions to the yes on 33 portion of this. And renters and homeowners for rent control contribute the majority clearly with 98.5% of all contributions.
So who is against Proposition 33? There's been a lot of money contributed to the no side of this proposition. You have the homeownership for families, which is sponsored by the California Association of Realtors. They have contributed a little over $27 million to the no side. When getting into the numbers of them, we did notice that they double counted a loan for $19 million. That was shown for Prop 33 and Prop 5. The second group is going to be No on 33, Californians for Responsible Housing, which is a bipartisan coalition of affordable housing advocates, and they have contributed a little over $44 million to the no side. And the last one is going to be No on Prop 33, Californians to Protect Affordable Housing, which is a coalition of housing advocates, and they have contributed about $2.8 million to the no side. And as you can see in this graph, the bipartisan coalition of affordable housing advocates takes up 59%, and then the California Association of Realtors takes up about 36%, and then the Californians to Protect Affordable Housing Coalition only takes up about 3.75%. And that is all for our presentation. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is James Tiglitz, and we're going to be talking about Proposition 34. It's basically restricted spending of prescription drug revenues by certain healthcare providers. Basically, what Proposition 34 is requiring these entities to spend 98% of their revenue. Interestingly enough, the only entity that actually qualifies under these conditions is the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. And here you can see certain penalties such as loss of tax exemption and other licenses are things that are important. So who's for Proposition 34? As talked about, Proposition 33, California Apartment Association is a very major player in this, contributing most of the money. You'll also see the California Chamber of Commerce as well as the California Professional Firefighters, the Latino Heritage Foundation. So who's against Proposition 34? Right now, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation is saying that this proposition negatively targets them. And if passed, it will show a precedent that in the ballot initiative process, money can be thrown around to try and leverage political wins. As you can see also, certain other nonprofit organizations are backing no because of the nature of this proposition. Right now, the total contributions on both sides is a very large majority of the money is being used from proposition or from the California Apartment Association. And here you can see between both Proposition 33 and 34, a large majority of the money is being spent by the California Apartment Association. And this graph does a really good job of showing the power that the Apartment Association is leveraging between the AIDS Healthcare Foundation and how it's trying to pull about initiative process. If you have any more questions, please feel free to look at these links, and I'm also available. Thank you.
It's nice. I think it's time.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Gwen Williams here.
My name is Jacob Carpetian, and we have been tasked with
Proposition 35, an initiative to create new healthcare funds more permanent, specifically for certain Medi-Cal services.
Yeah, so Prop 35 seeks to extend taxes and funding on Medi-Cal and other state healthcare insurance programs. The tax is currently set to expire in 2026, so the funding would seek to make the plan permanent. Funds created from the tax will be required to be used only for specific Medi-Cal services, and independent audits will also be required to ensure proper use of revenue.
Now, if you want a whole list of what services we're talking about, you can find a whole list of them in your California voter guide. In regards to, as far as fiscal impacts go, yes, as Jacob mentioned, there's gonna be increased funding for certain services and health programs, which include, but are not limited to, emergency medical transportation, behavioral health facilities, and safety net clinics. There would also be increased costs in the state, as well as temporary increase in state spending limits. That's supposed to be in essence.
Yeah, so Prop 35 has been endorsed by both the state's Democratic and Republican parties. There are two main committees fundraising the Yes on 35 campaign, and 4 of the state's medical associations as depicted right there. 3 of those 4 are among the top 10 contributors, as you will see on the next slide. I should also mention a total of 51 million has been contributed to the Yes side. This graph will show you the top 10 contributors, and those 3 medical associations are noticed on number 4, 8, and 10. The total from the top 10 contributors is around 45 million, which is otherwise 88% of the total amount for the Yes side.
Keep in mind that the information in this graph is as of September 30th, 2024. Now on the surface, it may not look like there's any major opposition to Prop 35. No major donations have been sent there, and if you look in your voting guide, there's no official argument submitted against it. But there's actually a deeper story. You see, if we take a look at the expenditures, we see that there's a greater amount of expenditures on the no side than there has been on the yes side. The two major groups being the California Pan-Ethnic Health Network and the aforementioned Reform California with Carla DeMaio. As Miles mentioned earlier, he is running for state assembly in District 75 because that district's incumbent, whom I forgot the name of, is term limited. And he ran, and if there's anything else you should know about Carla DeMaio, he ran for Congress twice in the San Diego area and lost both times. Aside from that, the other groups and individuals who oppose this measure include, but are not limited to, the League of Women Voters, the editorial boards for the San Francisco Chronicle, the Orange County Register, the San Diego Union Tribune, and the Los Angeles Times, as well as Governor Newsom himself, whom, if I remember, is not the biggest fan of using the ballot initiative process to take care of budgeting issues. More information about Prop 35 can be found in these sources, or if you want to hear what others have to say about it.
Thank you.
Now I shall hand over the mic to Melissa and Selah.
Thank you, Glenn.
Hi, my name is Selah Earnshaw.
My name is Melissa Larios, and we're going to be presenting Prop 36, which is the battle over prison sentencing. Proposition 36 is the initiative aimed at reducing drug and theft crimes and homelessness by amending the state law to increase penalties for several drug and theft crimes. This proposition would require the reversal of Prop 47, passed in 2014, which reduced penalties for low-level crimes, lowered prison populations, and saved over $800 million in savings, which was then repurposed into making communities safer. If enacted, Proposition 36 would significantly drive up state prison costs and cut funding from critical services. Proposition 47 passed with significant support and has successfully lowered prison populations. Many people are concerned over Proposition 36's impact on racial inequalities, potential risk of reducing state funding, as well as the risk of actually increasing homelessness, since there is a deep link with homelessness and incarceration rates. Over $20 million has been raised in total from both the opposition side and proponent side of Proposition 36. On the proponent side for Proposition 36, they have accumulated a total of $14 million, more than half of their total contributions coming from Walmart, Home Depot, Target, California Business Roundtable Issues, and Taylor Fresh Foods. Their top expenditures have accumulated $9.7 million, with the top 3 businesses making money off this bill being PCI Consultants, the California Republican Party, and Landslide Communications. On the opposing side of Proposition 36, as of October 15th, 2024, they have accumulated $5.6 million, with the top 5 monetary oppositions, including Patty Quillen, Stacy Schustermer, Heising Simmons Action Fund, Elizabeth Simmons, and the California Democratic Party. The top 5 are the top 3 businesses making money off this bill include the David Binder Research, the Million Voters Project Ag, and the media company. The proponent side argues that drug treatment programs will prevent individuals from being placed in jail. Also, Proposition 47 has limited consequences for criminal behavior, which has made small businesses constantly under attack. The opponent side of Proposition 36, including the League of Women Voters, state that it will disproportionately target Californians of color. It would increase prison populations, which could potentially be deemed unconstitutional due to the overcrowding of prisons. And by shifting money from treatment and rehabilitation to prisons, Prop 36 could potentially undermine programs that reduce recidivism and support reintegration into society. A 3-in-1 solution is not viable for success. In sum, a yes vote will increase penalties, with a no vote keeping penalties as they are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for attending, for coming to their midterm. All of the students, their emails are here. There are a number of questions in the chat. I'll direct those to the students for the appropriate ballot measures. I'd like to talk to the students afterwards a little bit. But all of you, thank you again for taking time out of your day. You want to thank our partners. For our students as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Right, now, see why I didn't take that. Not bad. Well, I get to look at it. I'm glad to do this.
Thank you.
Like sure. Hi, John.